It's 2 a.m. in downtown Manhattan. A man has locked himself inside a bank. He has 3 hostages. He hasn't slept in 31 hours. The phone on the desk starts ringing. Everyone in that room goes completely still. One wrong word, and someone dies. What do you say? Do you promise him things? Do you threaten him? Do you try to reason with him? Do you beg? What would you do if you were the one on that phone? The man who faced rooms like that every single day, he wrote a book about what he learned. And it will change the way you talk to every human being you meet. His name is Chris Voss. He wasn't a professor who studied conflict from a distance. He wasn't a therapist with a clipboard and a theory. He was the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator. For 24 years, he sat across from bank robbers, from kidnappers, from terrorists, people who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. And he won. Not by being tougher than them, not by being smarter than them, but by understanding something most people never figure out. That the human brain doesn't work the way we think it does. Now, before Voss came along, there was another famous school of negotiation. Harvard built it. Smart people, brilliant theories, perfectly logical frameworks. They told you to separate the people from the problem, find common ground, be rational, split the difference, reach a compromise everyone can live with. Chris Voss read every word of it. Then he walked into a real negotiation and realized none of it worked. Because the one thing Harvard forgot to account for? Human beings are not rational. We never were. We are emotional, irrational, fear-driven creatures who then use logic to justify what we already feel. And the moment you understand that, everything about how you communicate changes forever. Let me take you back to 1993. 2 masked men storm into a Chase Manhattan bank in Brooklyn. They grab 3 people as hostages. 2 female tellers. 1 security guard. The police arrive. The FBI arrives. Everyone arrives. Voss is there, not on the phone yet, but coaching, watching, listening. And what he notices isn't the robbers. It's the negotiators. They're not actually listening. They're waiting for their turn to talk. They're so busy thinking about what to say next, they're missing what's being said right now. Voss calls this the most dangerous mistake in any negotiation, because the person across from you is always telling you something. In their words, in their pauses, in what they avoid saying. The information is always there. You just have to actually listen for it. Not with the intent to respond, but with the intent to understand. That's the foundation everything else is built on. And it leads to the first real tool Voss puts in your hands. He calls it mirroring. And I want you to stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you sounds too simple to be real. During a hostage situation in Harlem, a kidnapper is on the phone, agitated, unpredictable. Voss picks up. The kidnapper says something unexpected about a getaway driver. "We chased your driver away," Voss says quietly. He just repeated the man's own words back to him. 3 words, nothing more. The kidnapper pauses, then starts talking, and talking. And in that rush of words, he reveals information about an accomplice. Information the FBI didn't have before, all from 3 repeated words. That is mirroring. Repeat the last 2 or 3 words, someone says, in a calm, curious tone, like you're genuinely interested. Then go quiet. Here's why it works. Humans are wired to feel uncomfortable with silence. When you mirror someone, you create a gentle tension, and they rush to fill it with more details, more honesty, more of what they're really thinking. You don't have to push, you don't have to argue. You just reflect and listen to what comes back. The person who talks more in a negotiation always loses. So let them talk. But mirroring only scratches the surface of what Voss is teaching. The deeper principle underneath it is something he calls tactical empathy. And I need you to hear what this is and what it isn't. It is not being nice. It is not agreeing with the other person. It is not softening yourself to make them comfortable. Tactical empathy is understanding exactly how another person feels and using that understanding, to move the negotiation forward. Think of a time you were dealing with someone who was furious, a boss who walked in like a thunderstorm, a client who was done being patient, a partner who had reached their limit. What did most people do? They tried to talk the person out of their feelings. Calm down. It's not that bad. Let's be reasonable here. And what happened? The person got worse, because telling someone how to feel is the fastest way to make them feel the opposite. Voss discovered a different approach. He calls it labeling. Instead of fighting the emotion, you name it. Instead of arguing with the feeling, you acknowledge it. It seems like you're frustrated with how this was handled. It sounds like this isn't what you expected at all. It feels like you've been carrying this for a long time. 3 phrases, each one starting with, it seems, it sounds, it feels. Not, I understand how you feel, which sounds hollow and rehearsed, but a quiet, calm observation, like you're simply noticing what's there. Here's the neuroscience behind why this works. When the brain experiences a strong emotion, the amygdala lights up. The amygdala is your threat detector, your fight or flight switch. The moment you name that emotion out loud, the amygdala activity decreases immediately. The person physically calms down. You didn't solve the problem. You didn't need to. You just acknowledged what was real, and the emotion lost its grip. Now, here's where Voss takes labeling to another level entirely. Imagine walking into a room that already hates you. Maybe you missed a deadline. Maybe you broke a promise. Maybe you represent something they resent. A company, an institution, a history. Most people walk in trying to control the narrative. They come in confident, prepared, defensive. They start explaining before anyone's asked a question. Voss says stop. Do the opposite. He calls it the accusation audit. Before anyone in that room can attack you, you name every attack they're thinking of. Out loud, first. You probably think we didn't take this seriously. You might feel like we've let you down more than once. And you're probably wondering why you should give us another chance. The moment you say those things, something remarkable happens. The tension in the room drops, because you just took away every weapon they were about to use. You loaded the gun and emptied it yourself. Voss used this walking into FBI standoffs where suspects hated law enforcement. He'd open with, "You probably think you can't trust a word the FBI says." Silence. Then, "Yeah, exactly." And suddenly, it's not a standoff anymore. It's a conversation. Because the person across from you needed to feel heard before they were willing to hear anything back. And that brings us to one of the most counterintuitive ideas in this entire book. The idea that the most dangerous word in any negotiation isn't no. It's yes. Think about the last time someone pushed you toward a yes. A salesperson, a pushy colleague, someone who really needed something from you. The more they drove toward yes, the more suspicious you got. Yes triggers defensiveness. Yes makes people feel like they're being cornered. Yes feels like a trap, even when it isn't. But no makes people exhale. No gives them a sense of safety and control. No says, I have a choice here. I'm not being pushed into anything. And when someone feels safe, they open up. They engage. They tell you what they actually want. So Voss teaches you to invite the no. Instead of, is now a good time to talk? You ask, is now a bad time to talk? Instead of, do you agree? You ask, would it be crazy to consider this? Give them an easy no, and they'll stay in the conversation. Push them toward yes, and they'll find a way out. There's even a technique Voss uses when someone goes completely silent on him. When emails stop, when calls go unreturned, he sends one line, have you given up on this? That question triggers something in every human brain. Because no one wants to be the person who gave up, the response almost always comes. But there's a word even more powerful than no, and it's not yes. It's 2 words. That's right. Voss's son Brandon played high school football. He had a habit of tackling blockers head-on, even when the coach told him again and again not to. After every coaching session, Brandon would say, "You're right," and then go right back to doing it anyway. Voss recognized something in that pattern. "You're right" is a way to end a conversation. It's what people say when they want you to stop talking. It means nothing. So Voss tried something different. He summarized everything Brandon believed: his worldview, his instincts, his identity as a player. He said, "You think dodging a block feels unmanly, like you're backing down, like that's not who you are." Brandon got quiet, then said, "That's right. Not, you're right. That's right." And that was the breakthrough. Because that's right means you have seen me completely. You understand what I believe, not just what I said. That's right is the moment a person stops being defensive and starts being open. How do you get there? You summarize what they feel, not just what they said. You reflect back their worldview with total accuracy and zero judgment. And when they say, "That's right," you've earned their trust. Not because you agreed with them, but because you truly understood them. Now we get into the part of this book that will make you rethink every number you've ever negotiated. Voss talks about something called bending reality, and it starts with the most loaded word in any negotiation: fair. I just want what's fair. We're only asking for a fair deal. That doesn't seem fair to me. Every time you hear that word, your guard goes up, because it's designed to. Fair is an emotional weapon. It's used to make you feel like you're the unreasonable one, to put you on the defensive before you've said anything wrong. Voss teaches you to diffuse it immediately. If someone says, "I just want what's fair," you say, "I agree. Let's make sure we're both treating each other fairly. Please stop me if you feel I'm being unfair at any point." You flipped it. Now fair works for you. Then there's anchoring. Voss's rule is simple. Whoever throws out the first number controls the negotiation. That first number becomes the psychological anchor. Everything after it is measured against it. So go first. Go extreme. Set the anchor far in your favor. Not offensive, but ambitious enough to pull the entire conversation your way. Even if you meet in the middle, your middle will be better than theirs. And here, the detail that sounds small, but changes everything. Never offer a round number. Don't offer $10,000. Offer 9,847. Round numbers feel like guesses. Specific numbers feel like research. A precise number signals that you know exactly what something is worth. And that signal alone shifts the other person's confidence in challenging you. Voss also talks about the power of time. Deadlines create pressure, and pressure creates mistakes. Most people panic when a deadline arrives. They concede. They cave. They split the difference. Voss says don't. Deadlines are almost always softer than they appear. And the person who seems most patient always wins. So, how do you stay in control without ever seeming controlling? Through questions. Specifically the kind of questions Voss calls calibrated questions. These are open-ended. They start with how or what. Never why. Why sounds like an accusation. Never yes. No, those shut conversations down. How and what force the other person to think. They create the illusion that they are in control, while quietly guiding them toward where you need them to go. Imagine you're being squeezed on price. The number they want is impossible. Don't say, "I can't do that." Say, "How am I supposed to make that work?" Hear the difference? "I can't do that" closes the door. "How am I supposed to make that work?" invites them in, and makes them start solving your problem for you. Other calibrated questions that Voss uses constantly. What is it that's most important to you here? What would you need to see to make this work? How does this affect what you're trying to accomplish? Each question puts the other person in the driver's seat. And while they think they're steering, you're holding the map. But here's something Voss teaches that most negotiators completely ignore. Your most powerful tool has nothing to do with what you say. It's how you say it. Your voice, Voss breaks it down into 3 tones. The first, the assertive voice. Direct, blunt, no room for debate. Use it rarely. It triggers defensiveness almost immediately. The second, the playful voice. Light, warm, easy. Like you're talking to a good friend. This should be your default. It puts people at ease and opens doors. The third, the late-night FM DJ voice. Slow, deep, deliberate, unhurried. Like you are completely at peace with the silence between your words. Voss once used this voice alone to end a hostage standoff. No promises made, no deals struck, just that voice. Calm and steady, like a hand on a shaking shoulder. The person on the other end of the line simply stopped, breathed, and surrendered. Because the voice communicated something the words couldn't. Everything is going to be okay. And in a moment of chaos, that is everything. But a negotiation isn't over when someone says yes. This is the mistake Voss sees people make constantly. They fight for the agreement. They celebrate the yes. Then they go home, and nothing happens. Because yes is nothing without how. The real negotiation, the one that actually matters, is getting someone to tell you how they will deliver on what they agreed to. Voss uses calibrated questions here too. How will we know when this is done? What happens if we run into a problem with the timeline? Who else needs to be part of making this work? These questions do 2 things. First, they make the other person think through execution in real time. Second, they reveal whether the yes you got was real or just polite. Voss also teaches you how to spot when someone is performing agreement. They use vague language. They avoid specifics. They say, "We'll figure it out," instead of, "Here's what we'll do." They smile a lot, without committing to anything. He calls these counterfeit yeses, and your job is to turn them into real ones by asking the questions that force real answers. Voss also gives you a trick for humanizing yourself in any negotiation. Use your own name. Come on, I'm Chris. Give me the Chris price. It sounds simple, almost too casual, but it creates what he calls forced empathy. The moment you become a person, not a position, the other side instinctively starts treating you like one. Now, what about when it comes down to the numbers? When all the empathy and labeling is done, and it's time to actually bargain? Voss has a system for this too. He calls it the Ackerman method, and it is one of the most disciplined bargaining frameworks ever built. Here's how it works. Start by deciding your target price. Then make your opening offer at 65% of that target. When they push back, move to 85%, then 95, then 100. Each increase is smaller than the last. Decreasing increments signal that you're reaching your absolute limit. The other side senses it. They feel the negotiation tightening. And at the very end, when you make your final offer, add something non-monetary. Not because it has value, but because it signals you've given everything. When the offer comes with a small addition, the other person's brain registers. There's nothing left to squeeze. And they accept. The Ackerman method isn't about tricking anyone. It's about moving slowly, deliberately, with complete control. Every concession feels earned, and every final number, final. And then at the very end of this book, Voss introduces the concept that ties everything together. He calls them black swans. A black swan is a hidden piece of information, something the other side knows that you don't. A pressure they're carrying, a fear they haven't named, a deadline that changes everything. A person who has the real say. Black swans are the unknown unknowns. The things you don't know, you don't know. And Voss says, every negotiation has them. The question is whether you find them. How do you find them? You listen more than you talk. You pay attention to what doesn't make sense. When someone acts in a way that seems irrational, that is almost always a sign there, something you were missing. There, as a hidden pressure, a hidden constraint, a hidden agenda that would explain everything if you knew it. Voss tells a story of a kidnapping negotiation that was going nowhere. The family couldn't meet the ransom. The kidnappers weren't budging. Everyone was stuck. Then, through careful listening and patient questioning, they discovered something no one knew. The kidnappers were terrified of their own bosses. They needed a resolution as badly as the family did. Maybe more. That was the black swan. And once it was in the open, the negotiation moved in minutes. The people who seem most irrational are often under the most pressure. Your job isn't to judge them. Your job is to find what they're carrying and use that understanding to move everyone forward. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Chris Voss didn't write a book about FBI tactics. He wrote a book about human beings, about what we're all actually doing every single day without realizing it. Every conversation you have is a negotiation. Your salary, your relationships, your boundaries, how your kids listen to you, how your team follows you, how much respect you get in the room, and how much of it you give away without knowing. You are negotiating every single day. The only question is whether you're doing it consciously or randomly, whether you re-listening or just waiting to talk, whether you re-trying to win the argument or trying to understand the person. Voss spent 24 years in the most high-stakes rooms imaginable, where the wrong word cost a life. And what he learned in those rooms is that the greatest negotiators aren't the toughest. The most curious, the most patient, the most human. Let's bring it all home. Listen more than you talk, the information is always there. Mirror what they say, silence is your most powerful tool. Label their emotions, acknowledgement dissolves resistance. Do the accusation audit, say the worst thing first. Welcome. Know it. Where real conversations begin. Chase that right, not you rewrite. Anchor with a specific number, own the negotiation from the start. Use calibrated questions, let them think they're steering. Use the right voice, calm always beats loud. Find the black swans, the hidden truth changes everything. And never, ever split the difference. Compromise sounds fair, but it means both sides lose. The goal isn't to meet in the middle. The goal is to understand deeply enough that you can both walk away having gotten what actually matters. That is what this book teaches. And that is what we're here to bring to you every single week. At LiterateLens, we don't just summarize books. We bring them to life. If this video gave you even one thing you'll use this week, share it with someone who needs to hear it. That might be the most powerful negotiation you make today. And if you want to feel this way every single week, subscribe, hit the bell, join us. There is a book coming next that is going to shake how you see decisions. You will not want to miss it. Now, tell me, which tool from this book are you using first? Mirroring? Labeling? The accusation audit? Calibrated questions? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one.